Paranormies, welcome back to the light side of the paranormal. I'm Jenna.
And I'm Alice. And today we're going to be doing another top 5 for you.
This will be our top 5 haunted house movies, starting at 5 and working our way down to 1, our most favorite haunted house movie.
This is my favorite genre of horror films. All-time fave, love it. Haven't met a movie I didn't like in this genre. They're just amazing and I'm so excited to dive into this. I think this is like close to your favorite, right?
Yeah, it's not my number 1 favorite genre, but it's up there. It was hard to classify what would be considered a haunted house movie. We had a rough time, but hopefully,
This is true.
Hopefully our picks will satisfy you when it comes to your definition of that genre.
So what is your number 5, Jenna?
Okay, my number 5 is The Pact.
I don't know if I've seen that.
This is a really good movie. It's got some good twists and turns and what's in it? It obviously circles around the idea of a house that is haunted or however you want to go about it. I won't give too much away. I'll read you the little plot summary from imdb.com. As a woman struggles to come to grips with her past in the wake of her mother's death and the disappearance of her sister, an unsettling presence emerges in her childhood home.
Ooh.
So, if I remember this correctly, she goes, after her mom passes, she goes back to her childhood home to do the things you need to do after someone passes away, and hauntings ensue.
Whoa.
There's one main part in this movie that really, hooked me, and I really actually can't say it at all because it's part of the main twist.
But there is a twist.
It's kind of a twist. It's kind of like a... I don't know how to do it, like a what? Oh!
I can...
It's not at the very end. It just plays into the end of the movie. So that's all I can tell you.
I understand what you're trying to convey.
You gotta see it. I could see how some people wouldn't classify this as a haunted house movie. I don't want to say why, but I am classifying it as a haunted house movie.
I feel
and
like
you gotta deal with that.
you're such an Aries sometimes. Your Aries is showing.
What is your number 5?
My number 5 is The Others.
Wait, is that on my list? It's not. It probably would have been my honorable mention, my number 6 maybe.
Cool.
It was hard for me to not pick that one.
Okay. So you did enjoy it.
I loved that movie.
Yeah, it's so good. I will say compared to more modern haunted house movies, it's not as flash, exciting things happening. It can be a little bit dry, but it's so impactful. It's beautiful to watch. Let me actually get into my reasons.
It's more like a drama that you didn't realize was like a haunting movie. Almost. Yeah.
And that will make sense after you watch it. We're not going to give too much away. There is a big twist. I love a twist.
That might have been one of the first movies I ever watched that had a twist.
Actually, same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leave in the comments below with your first movie you remember watching that had a twist to it, because I love a good twist movie. If I haven't seen them, I'll watch them.
Yes.
But yeah, it was memorable for that reason. I was like, wow.
Yes. And it's one of those movies where it's like the gift that keeps on giving, because you could watch it a second time, even knowing the twist ending, and you're just seeing it from this whole new perspective.
Yes, that's the best part about a good twist movie, is watching it the second time, knowing the twist,
and the little hints.
And seeing it everywhere.
The pieces. Yes.
Love it.
It's such a good movie. So I'm going to give you a plot summary here. Grace moves into a new house with her 2 photosensitive children in Jersey. When a series of inexplicable events occur, Grace starts believing that her house is haunted. And that's the end of that. Very, very vague. Please go watch it if you haven't already. Please tell me your number 4.
Number 4 is Paranormal Activity.
Yes.
This was hard to classify if it was a haunted house movie or a possession movie or Poltergeist movie. We kind of talked about this a little bit, but I liked all the Paranormal Activities, so it was hard to... I wasn't going to pick one over the other. So when I say Paranormal Activity, I'm just going to talk about the whole franchise as a whole. When that came out, that was one of the first movies like that.
It was terrifying.
Yes. I remember friends having seen it and saying, don't watch it. You shouldn't watch this. And me being me, I'm like, oh, do I? Don't I? Do I? Do I? And then obviously I ended up watching it. Which, the only other movie I can remember there being that much chaos around is The Blair Witch Project.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is one of my all-time favorites, but I was intrigued by this one because it's that whole found footage genre.
All the more believable.
And they really played it up like The Blair Witch did with these were real people, like they were not actors you had seen before. Were they real? Did this really happen? Did this happen to a friend of a friend? Was it based on true events? Yeah, there was a lot of that around it.
It was so believable.
And I mean, even though you...
At the time.
Yeah, and even though you know after the first one, once they came up with like 2, 3, 4, you knew they weren't real, right? Like it was just part of them playing that off. But they were still good. They were still good after that, I thought.
It was entertaining at that point.
If I had to say in the franchise which one was my favorite, it was the... Which one was it?
Third?
It was the third one. I'm going to tell her why, but I'm not going to tell you why. Hang on.
It was so good.
I think I saw all of those except for the first one because I was too scared in the theater. I feel like if you are a horror fan and you haven't watched Paranormal Activity, what are you doing?
Yes.
Come on, you gotta give it a go.
And if you're watching this right now and you're subscribed to us, or you're just enjoying our channel and you should be subscribed to us, you probably like ghosts. So if you like ghosts, you should probably watch Paranormal Activity.
So I'll only read you the plot summary of the first one, because if I read you any of the other plot summaries, it might ruin, I don't know what they are, but it might ruin the first one. After moving into a suburban home, a couple becomes increasingly disturbed by a nightly demonic presence. Another thing that was really intriguing I found about this, because it was a haunted house film, was that it wasn't the creepy old haunted house. It was a brand new build in a house that, I had lived in a house similar looking to this house, and it was just weird to see that it was a brand new house. And that had nothing to do with why this house was haunted.
That's so true. It was very unlike any other haunted house film.
Yes.
Number 4, The Haunting. Now, I think that there are a few movies called The Haunting.
There are, yes.
So to clarify, I will tell you exactly which one it is on my phone machine.
I remember everybody talking about this movie and me going, yeah, I've seen it. But then our stories not lining up, and then me realizing that I had actually seen House on Haunted Hill.
Oh, that too.
And it wasn't The Haunting.
And it was around the same time.
Yeah, and it took like several conversations for me to realize I hadn't actually seen this movie everyone was talking about.
Did you end up watching it later?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So this was one of my first haunted house movies I'd ever seen. It came out in 1999, and the synopsis is: Dr. Marrow enlists Theo, Luke, and Nell for a study of sleep disorders at the Hill House. That's why it was confusing.
I know. And it was very confusing.
As soon as the terrifying truth about the mansion is revealed, everyone is found fighting for their lives. So the star of the show here is Lily Taylor. She is so amazing in this movie. And to me, it is the definition of a haunted house movie. It is a big old mansion, but you're not really expecting what goes on, and there's a lot of questions that are being posed throughout. And then later, it's all validated, it's all tied together with a big unveiling of the truth. It's so satisfying. I will say that the story, like the backstory and the plot line, is what I liked most about this movie. I don't love a lot of flash, no plot line, bah! This movie actually scared me. This movie made me have nightmares after. I was pretty young when I watched it.
Yeah, okay.
Like I was under 10, I think, when I watched it. There was so much of it that was things that I had never seen before, images that I had never fathomed, and now it was all coming into my head for the first time.
Right.
It was good. It was scary, it was good. Looking back now, it would probably be a little bit cheesy because it's older, but it still deserves my number 4 spot.
If you can hear meowing, it is my deaf cat.
Poor guy.
So number 3, Poltergeist.
Good choice.
Is that a haunted house movie? I don't know. If you haven't seen Poltergeist, it is also a very classic movie. It was like in the 80s, I think. It was in 1982. I didn't see it until a lot later. I feel like because for a long time, I grew up just like knowing the story of it. So like, why watch it? But eventually I watched it. I'm glad I did because it's one of my favorites now. But without getting too much into it, I feel like it's like a classic haunted house movie.
Absolutely. It's up there with The Exorcist.
Yeah, if I think of like a haunted house, this is one of the ones that pops into my head. The plot summary to this is: a family's home is haunted by a host of demonic ghosts. That's it. A family's home is haunted. Period.
Yeah. So it's a haunted house movie.
Yeah, I think because it involved like a little girl. It was just spookier.
How did you feel about the remake?
I watched it and it was just like unmemorable. I think because they followed it to a T.
Yeah.
Why make a second one?
Absolutely.
The original was good.
I completely agree. So my number 3 is an old one as well, and that is Stir of Echoes. That takes my number 3 spot. It is literally a haunted house because, I can't even say that.
No, I know, but it is like the epitome of haunted houses.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. It couldn't be more of a haunted house than how it is a haunted house. And you will find out after you watch it. Or if you've already seen it, then you know. There is a twist, which I love. Well, it's kind of a twist, but it's also kind of like you're getting clues as to what's going on throughout the movie, and then at the end, it all comes together in a very satisfying way, like I've already said about the last 2, I think. But yeah, I really like that. I really like when they're giving you clues the whole time. And they're clues that are so interesting to watch. They're not just like, I feel like sometimes clues can be bland, and this is not. Like you're getting a clue without knowing that it's a clue, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. I love the character development. Even characters that aren't really main characters or protagonists, I feel like you still fall in love with them. You still get to know everyone in a very personal way, and that character development makes you more interested in what's going on. And my last comment, there were many times where you were at the edge of your seat watching it. There wasn't a lot of time to relax. I felt like there was always something going on. You wanted to know and you wanted to see it. It was just so exciting the whole way through. Memorable. Like I can picture the entire movie in my head. Very terrifying images. This was another one that gave me nightmares as a child. I think I was like 10 or 11 when I watched this for the first time, and I continued to watch it many times since. So how about your number 2?
So my number 2, piggybacking on that before we read the synopsis, that was my number 2. If you've watched our first video of the slasher flicks, it tugs on my heartstrings because it is that whole idea of this person being validated, people finally believe, like him trying to get people to believe him and believe what's going on.
So relatable in our lives.
Yeah. Okay, you said it all pretty much. The plot summary is, after being hypnotized by his sister-in-law, a man begins seeing haunting visions of a girl's ghost, and a mystery begins to unfold around him. I forgot that he was hypnotized by her.
Yes.
IMDb.com has taglines. We should start like putting taglines. Some doors weren't meant to be opened. That door was 100% meant to be opened.
Yeah, that was the whole point.
Yeah. So that was my number 2. What is your number 2?
My number 2 is The Conjuring 2. Not because it's 2 and 2, but because I loved the first Conjuring. Please don't get me wrong. It's one of my favorite movies. But the second one was scarier to me. The second one was more twisted, just creepy. Something that affected me later, many times. I would think about that.
So The Conjuring 2 was actually based on true events. Before I watched The Conjuring 2, I actually watched the full documentary of the real case. And so then watching the movie after didn't do it for me. Because they change up a lot, and I just hate that when a story is already really good. They changed up a few things, and I was just like, this story is already perfect. Why change anything? But that's Hollywood.
Hollywood, yeah.
Yeah, I've
That's
seen it, so it
fair.
kind of dampened it for
That
me,
sucks.
unfortunately, because I really liked the first Conjuring, so.
I didn't know what to expect. I was only going off of what I had seen in the first one. So going in with fresh eyes.
Right.
It was so cool. There was so many weird ideas that they didn't have to put in there, but they were like, this is freaking nightmarish and terrifying. We'll just throw that in. Like, notably, the Crooked Man. If you haven't seen it, you don't know what I'm talking about. The Crooked Man character and like that whole scene.
Is that the one with the spinning?
Yeah.
They're supposed to make a whole movie about him, and it just hasn't happened yet. Comment down below if I'm wrong, but I've heard for years that they are supposed to make this, and I've been waiting because that was the best part of that movie.
That is a gift, yes. Like, every scene with the Crooked Man, whether it be the actual physically scary parts, I'm not going to say, or like just the minute toy, it was all just very unsettling to watch, and later becomes absolutely horrific. Such a super fan of the Crooked Man. Alright, so plot summary for you here. Ed and Lorraine Warren travel, because we know we love Ed and Lorraine, yes. Okay, sorry, King and Queen. Travel to North London to help a single mother raising 4 children alone in a house plagued by a supernatural spirit. So that is that. I love that movie. Enough said. Number 1!
Number 1! I peeked at your paper and we have the same number 1.
Ooh, okay.
It is
Insidious 2! Oh.
The second one is my favorite.
Yay! Okay, so it is the same one.
And for one scene in particular,
Tell me.
it won't give anything away, but when she goes to take the garbage out, if you know, you know. And if you haven't seen it, you should see it.
I'm gonna try and describe why it's my favorite without giving it away.
It's hard.
I know. So there is a character briefly touched on in the first Insidious movie that I was really interested in during the first movie. It's really freaky. It's just like classic creepy, makes your skin crawl. And they focus more on that character in the second one. So for me, it was like, the fans really liked this. Let's give them what they want.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that.
Yeah. And I loved that too, because I had seen Dead Silence before I had seen Insidious.
Oh my god, don't even get me started about Dead Silence.
I know. And so Insidious 2 kind of, you know.
I never put that together until now, but yeah, I see what you mean. With the
So
dark...
The lady.
And the person, the character.
The character.
Is similar.
The entity or whatever is very similar in those two movies. So if you like one, you like the other.
I never thought of that. That's so interesting.
Mind blown!
Yeah. Dead Silence, in my opinion, is the most underrated horror film of all time.
It is pretty underrated, yeah.
I
loved it.
love that movie.
Me too.
It is terrifying.
Yes. Like a lot of people say, the sequels are worse, but sometimes they're not. Like,
yeah, I always expect them to be worse.
Maybe that's why.
Yes, I'm
you go in with
myself
very
to hate
low
it.
expectations,
Yes.
and then you'll love it.
So why is it your favorite specifically, though, compared to the first one or the other ones?
I think because I really liked the first one too.
The first one is amazing.
How many are there? 4 or 3?
4 or 5.
Oh wow, okay. So I have seen the other ones. I didn't love them. I think 1 and 2 are the ones that I really liked. There's a twist with the main characters, and
if you know, you know.
Yeah, and I really like how the wife in the movie had to figure things out like a puzzle almost.
Yes.
I really liked that.
I also really appreciated that it was super dark. Like, so much about it was like dark lighting, dark clothing, dark ideas, dark concepts, like dark entity. Like, I just metal music should have been playing in the background, like that. Like,
I think that was the other thing that I really liked about it too, is just it gave more of the like haunted house, like the old creepy dark haunted house vibes, rather than the first one was more of like
less of a haunted house, more of
a haunting happening.
Yeah, haunting experience.
Yeah. But this one, the house was very, there were ghosts walking around the house and
tasteful jump scares.
And I love, without giving too much away, there's something about the entities in the second one that's very, like, their eyes are very big and they're very just, yes.
Does that describe it?
Yeah, like dollish.
Yes,
or mannequin-like.
Yes.
And they don't move, or they move and just do one thing over and over, and you don't know, because sometimes they just snap and they turn and there's something.
And they have creepy facial expressions.
I really like Patrick Wilson.
Plays
the husband. He plays Ed Warren in all of the
Yes,
other ones.
he
And I think
does.
that's why my brain like gets mixed up with these movies, because he's in like all of them.
Yes, true.
But I really like him. I like a lot of his movies. So the plot summary is, the Lamberts believe that they have defeated the spirits that have haunted their family from the first movie. But they soon discover that evil is not beaten so easily. That is such a classic sequel summary. But
so the tagline is, "It will take what you love the most."
That's it. That's it.
I like singing in that voice because I feel like that's how it would be said on the commercial.
Yeah, and that man's deep.
It will take what you love the most.
Okay, so that wraps up Haunted House Top 5s.
I do have some honorable mentions this time.
Oh, did I have any? No. Actually, I feel like the others was my honorable mention. I mentioned that honorably earlier.
So, honorable mentions, and I'm not going to get into why too much because this is already a long video, but The Haunting in Connecticut, that was so creepy.
Yeah, it was.
When that first came out, that blew my freaking mind.
The best part about that? Gross. I don't remember that part. No, I know. I rented this when you could rent DVDs. Wait, did I?
I mean, I think so.
No.
No?
I watched the DVD version of this. And in the DVD version, there was extras. And in the extras, there was real interviews with the real woman that this happened to. And while she was being interviewed, things were happening to her. The cross on the wall behind her fell off the wall. Things like this. Stuff was happening while she was being interviewed about this. And that was the best part. I think I liked that more than the movie.
That is so freaking cool. I do know that the, true story that was based on, No one, like, there's a lot of people that still don't believe her to this day.
There's probably a lot of people who don't believe a lot of people about the true stories that they go through. If I see a movie that's like based on true events, I always go look up the true events. So the fact that I didn't have to go far, it was in the extras, was perfect.
That is awesome. And I agree, that's all the more terrifying. Like, especially when you're younger and you're like, this really happened, because you can't comfort yourself knowing that it's just a movie. Love that one for a lot of reasons. Go watch it if you haven't. The next honorable mention, the Amityville horror movie that's starring Ryan Reynolds specifically, that one, I love that movie. It scared the crap out of me. Like, when it first came out, I remember watching it right away, and it was so good. On DVD also. I think we actually did rent that one from the Blockbuster or whatever.
Yeah. I wish so much that I could like any of the Amityville horror movies, but when I was really young, I read the original book.
You keep doing that.
Account. Like, the actual account.
Yes.
Like, the book, the Amityville horror, that was like written in like, I don't know, 70s or 80s or whatever. So every movie I saw after that was just not doing it justice. If you have not read that book, the original book, the Amityville horror, I highly suggest you read it. It is the most satisfying, haunting book I have ever read.
And what Jenna learned that day was read the book after you watch the movie. Always.
Well, to be fair, I read the book before any of the movies were out.
Okay, that is fair. That is fair.
Or at least not the old ones. I hadn't seen any of those. Anyway.
Moving on. What Lies Beneath. An old 90s film. I say it old. I guess it's old now. A 90s film that was so good. So creepy. I guess it was a little more psychological, but it was still just a great haunting. I'll just leave it at that. Sinister.
Oh!
Sinister. It was almost my number 5. It's good.
Ooh, I loved that movie.
Yes. Right?
I forgot about it.
Right? I liked that it was like Bagul, and it was like an actual kind of folklore. I guess that would land more in the folklore.
That's my go-to face when I get creeped right now. Because I remember hearing the name and being like, I don't want to know this name.
That's true. Sorry, I said it again.
No, it's okay. So I spent like hours like Googling if this was a real entity that I like should not know its name and stuff. Stupid.
Fair. Understandable though, because there are some, right?
But I remember seeing the previews for that, and when he's walking at the bottom of the pool.
Yes! That's
so creepy.
That's the creepiest part. And for the record, my face when I get really creeped out is this.
Really? Mine is
I
this.
love it. So those were my honorable mentions.
Yes, those were good.
Thank you.
All very honorable.
Do you have any honorable mentions or your top 5 itself that are different from ours? Please let us know in the comments below.
Please make sure to give this video a like if you enjoyed watching our top 5s. We are going to be coming out with a lot more.
And if spooky and spiritual content is your jam, become a part of our Paranormy fam. Yeah. Here we go.
Please, if you haven't already, go over to Instagram and follow us on there at TLS_paranormal.
It'll be in the description.
And you can also follow Alice and myself individually if that should interest you.
Also in the description. And as always, live your life with love and light.
And keep on creeping on.
Bye.
Bye.